So, you want to save the world. Me too. And that's why I became a civil engineer. What do you guys think about when you hear the word civil engineering? Most people would think about things like bridges, or maybe buildings, or maybe big structures made of concrete. They're not wrong. This is a big part of civil engineering, but it's not the only part of civil engineering. At its core, civil engineering is about society. It's about people, and it's about citizens and their concerns. We are society's engineers, and we're here to help engineer a better future. Civil engineering takes care of our entire city and our society. This includes all of our built environment, our natural environment, and all of the people that live and interact within those two environments. And we're facing some really big challenges. Civil engineers have worked to try and better our world and save our worlds many times before. So, this isn't the first time that we're working to save the world. Let me explain. Did you know that the civil engineer has done more than any other discipline to extend the human lifespan? More even than the entire field of medicine combined. It's true. And do you know what kind of invention the civil engineers came up with to extend our lifespan? It was a civil engineer, or the city engineer as they were known back then, who came up with the idea of transporting clean water from faraway lakes and rivers using aqueducts to bring our clean water to our cities so that we can consume fresh, clean, potable water. We also separated our drinking water from our wastewater. This means that we were able to avoid all kinds of waterborne diseases like cholera and typhoid that were huge problems in our society. It was these two inventions combined that led us to extend our human lifespan way beyond what it would have been previously. And this invention is still going on today. These structures still exist, and we have incorporated this into our modern society. This means that civil engineering has shaped the way that we live our day-to-day lives. Everything from how we get around, how we consume energy, where we're going, where we live and sleep and eat and interact with people, all of this has to do with civil engineering. The biggest challenge that we're facing when we think about our cities and our natural environments nowadays is climate change. And this is our opportunity to save the world again. So, the world has been warming over time. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, we've been emitting greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and this is increasing our global temperature. We've experienced the 19 hottest years in the world since the year 2000. This increase in temperature leads to all kinds of other impacts. We've got changes in our local weather patterns. We've got shifting precipitation patterns and shifting frequency and severity of storms. We have more often and more intense natural hazards, and we've got all kinds of associated impacts. We're here to tell you how civil engineers are working to save the world. What are we doing here at UC that's working to fight this challenge of climate change and take a hold of the opportunities that we have? We're going to talk about 9 different things today about how we're working to save the world. We're going to talk about renewable energy and our energy futures. We're going to talk about protecting our natural resources, adapting our cities for this future climate. We're going to talk about producing smart ways to measure the wear and tear of our built infrastructure. We're going to talk about recycling, minimizing waste, and we're going to talk about innovative solutions for greener construction. First of these topics is near and dear to my heart, thinking about our sustainable energy and energy transition. Energy is a huge piece of this climate change puzzle. It's something that emits roughly 3/4 of our greenhouse gas emissions currently to the atmosphere. And when we think about energy, we're not just thinking about electricity, we're thinking about all of the fuels we use for transport, and we're thinking about all the fuels that we use in our heat sector too. This is a huge challenge and a huge opportunity, and we're thinking about how we plan for that transition towards renewable energy technologies. Things like incorporating wind and solar and hydro and geothermal into our electricity grid and our heat grid. And new technologies like how do we convert our transportation sector to something that's not fossil fueled? We might be thinking about innovations like hydrogen or even synthetic biomass fuels in this situation. Another thing we might be thinking about is protecting our natural resources. Civil engineers work to do things like clean our water and protect our waterways. We do drinking water treatment and wastewater treatment and stormwater treatment. And all of this together is working to protect that vital resource that's water. Inside of this scope, we're thinking about how much water and where and why this needs to be available. We're designing our solutions to try and meet that future demand, and we're dealing with challenges like water scarcity, or maybe even the type of water that we want not being available. We can think about new technologies like desalination, for example, or even water reuse and recycling. We can also think about adapting our cities. Cities are vital for our survival. This is where everybody's learning to live and thrive. Civil and natural resources engineers are chiefly in charge of learning how to and thinking about how we design our cities so that they're resilient to future hazards.
So buildings are responsible of 37% of the world's related energy carbon. And this is because we need material for building structures. And this material need to be like extracted, manufactured, transported on site, and then built. And this is causing like carbon emissions. Then carbon emission is also produced during the demolitions of buildings. So what can we do? We can build sustainable materials. How can we do that? It's just by replacing cement with alternative solutions. And this material must produce less CO2. For example, what we are doing here in the concrete printing lab. So we are replacing traditional cement with muscle shells, with rubber tires, and we're also replacing with paper sludge. And this is allowing us to reduce the carbon emissions from materials. We have also other solutions to solve our problem of climate change. We can design buildings that are self-sufficient from an energy point of view. For example, we can use solar energy, geothermal energy, or wind energy to heat and producing hot water to produce electricity, or we can use like natural ventilation to cool down our buildings. This will save a lot of CO2 that is produced currently for the same purpose. But one of the biggest responsibilities that we have as engineers is protecting our cities from natural disasters like fire, earthquakes, tsunamis, and the weather. As a civil engineer, we are designing and building structures that are resilient after seismic events. For example, the Te Papa Museum in Wellington. This is built on seismic isolators. So during the earthquake, this building will gently shake, but will not damage at all, and then will be reoccupied and visited immediately. The construction industry is changing dramatically. New way of building buildings and bridges is, for example, we are using robots, 3D printers to build buildings. And this is because they allow us to build faster and also protecting the people working on site. Other technologies that are disrupting the industry are augmented and virtual reality. Paper drawings will be something from the past. Now and the future, buildings will be designed on computer or on head-mounted devices. Augmented reality and virtual reality are also improving communication and collaboration between engineers, architects, clients, and also with the community as a wide. But also they are used to simulate situations where people are escaping from buildings because of fire or an earthquake.
Now, we need to focus on not just building things in the traditional way. We have to build smart systems. We have to have interconnected systems that, for example, can monitor earthquakes and tell us whether or not it's safe to evacuate. We should have smart transportation systems that improve safety, reliability, and reduces congestion, and overall have a sustainable multimodal transportation system. Civil engineering is often criticized for creating a huge amount of waste. Upwards of 23% of all waste that is created comes from construction and decommissioning. If we can reduce the amount in that skip, that means that all of the material is going straight to the building. And in the process, we are reducing the amount of impact that we have in the surrounding ecosystem. At the end of the day, it's all about the people.
We're facing big challenges, and this is a big problem to solve, but this is also your opportunity. We are leaders, we're problem solvers, and we're innovators, and we're going to save the world.